Hey, wadau.
Yes, bro.
Bari yenu bwana.
Fiti sana man. Tunaweka simu chini.
Ukoaje? Niko fiti. Weekend ilikuaje?
Usiku kivaa white. Na ningo.
Kila siku ni sasa zimocha na mimi. Kwa niko shida nikivaa
white maziwa. Unawaka. Etango white maziwa.
Shida iko wapi?
Ati ni kuwakunywa.
Shida iko wapi? Leo kwanza hebu nasikia uko na mawaidha ya kutupea.
Before hata mawaidha.
Mawaidha ya Rasta.
Hii wiki nimeshinda CBD pale Nairobi.
Leo ana pull neck kwa hivyo msingoje.
Hii wiki nimeshinda Nairobi na kuna mtu nimenotice. Mabuyo kwa tu kwa simu hivi. Mabuyo kuna kiwoga fulani. Kashindwa nini kila mseo kwa simu hivi. Kuna dem fulani anaamka leo na anakupost.
Anarusha. Anatoa picha yako.
Wewe fast unajua kuna ka app kanaitwa fast nje profile yako unakachua download hivi anakurusha nasema mlikuwa naye Naivasha nini before ukitete kwanza kama wewe si mse unatembea na kama maifa wewe mse wa banda
unaanza
na message zinakuja scratch hivi Safaricom muweke credit comments watu wamesema by the way jamaa by the nimekuwa nikinola
wanaume tu Nairobi wanatembea hivi
mimi nawachanua mkaerada kaa kwa simu hivi picha yako inaweza kuwa mahali inacheza
mimi nawachanua mtoke kwa hizi media
social media
zote
gram
tokeni tu
zitoka
lakini unajua hizi vitu zinasaidia. For example, wadau sasa kasa hii kasi social media unajua tu ungekuwa tuna discuss hizi vitu.
Na hapo ndio committee members
tuna interact na wanakamati.
Zikuwe na differentiation kidogo.
Kumwe hadi sasa
social za kuchomeana zikuwe tofauti.
Kuna kuona app ya kuchomeana na haina comments. Haina comments.
Kwa comment
passion.com
passion kabisa.
Wewe kwanza unajua place yenye mmetaja jina yako ikatokea hapo. Ai iko shida.
Kwa umse anapiga kama bare. Anyway,
lakini ulikuwa unatuambia ulikuwa garage weekend.
Mimi garage nimeenda weekend. Okay, nilikuwa nimeenda kupeleka gari time fulani. Ya mdosi si
uliomoka na utuambia
ndipo nishafika.
Haya.
Gari ya mdosi nilikuwa nimepeleka garage time fulani. Nikawa introduce kwa channel. Sasa weekend na nikaacha tu kama wame nice tu zao. Unajua video za kwanza zilikuwa tu mzaa au kisi mzaa basi.
Ni mambo serious but ziko na
what you are going through. Boy Child Chronicles.
Kutesa ama kutiu ndio kwa hiyo wana. So, juzi nikapeleka gari tena nilikuwa na issue.
Hiyo gari mnafaa kuuza.
Celeb status sijaifika.
Unafika mahali hivi watu wanashangilia.
Napewa hadi parking space kanjo wananipa. Ana silipi yenyewe down. Mmeweza. So
bado tuko
so video last time
47
iliwabamba sana cause ilikuwa tofauti na ilikuwa ina deal na
issue kweli like
of what we are talking about. Na wana appreciate sana na hata wadau tumeona comments na appreciate pia. So kwa wale wasi wanagojea hype then we had to do this.
Hii ilikuwa very important.
Wasiwalitisha kwa comments.
Hii ilikuwa important conversation to have because I feel kuna wase wengi sana wenye labda hii conversation imekuwa ngumu kwa kujianzia wenyewe ama hata hawaelewi the issue ya therapy na nini. So hii imebidi yani tufanye.
We had to do that.
Like
an expert.
And that shows we actually value comment ya kila mse hapo.
Hakuna mse mwenye ati tunachekia.
Na tuliona ni mob, there was no need to peana opinion over subject atuko.
And so bado last time tulionyesha part 1 hiyo conversation. Leo mnaona part 2.
Yes.
Ita involve story na familia na nini so hii pia itakuwa noma.
Itakuwa noma. Sasa juni kumalizia sasa.
Hii ni saa kumalizia. Definitely muangalie kwa description kuna we have posted some few organizations that offer counseling services and such. Muangalie kwa both hii video na video last time. Kama unahitaji any help tafadhali if you need any help free. Na each of the organizations zenye tumeandika kama kuna yenye inalipwa services zao kuna zenye zina offer free services we have put all those details there so that you can see them, unaweza saidika, don't hesitate kupiga hiyo namba. Kama unahitaji any help, tafadhali usiumie peke yako. There are people out here who are willing to listen to you, to help you work through whatever problems you're walking through.
And the psychologist was so willing
to
your platform na pia kupeana, kuteka time kupeana your advice.
That's the job.
So take that, listen to what he's saying. Angalia pia life yako, ucheki venye what anasema ina factor in aje kwa life yako, and if you feel by the end of the video that you need to talk to someone, please make that step. Usiumie peke yako tafadhali.
Guys, enjoy the video.
Kuna kitu kingine ningependa kusema hata kabla wa enjoy video. Thank you for the subscribers.
Wallahi.
Asante tuliwaambia tunajaribu kufikia 250, sasa hivi tuko 247 248 hapo. Thank you so much. Endeleeni hivyo.
By the time wana watch.
By the time sasa tunaenda so 3, si ndio? Asante sana.
Nasema tu ni asante.
Thank you so much people. Enjoy the video.
So, Mom, you said roughly or an estimate is 1.5 years for grieving therapy.
It can go as long as that without any counselor, any psychologist being concerned. There are some people who are able to process very fast, even without going for counseling, and they feel that you can be even just talking about it with friends. I would be worried about somebody who thinks that they can get over it without talking about it. Now that is a danger sign. But there are those who will even talk to a friend and say, it hurts, but I think I'm okay. I'm coping very well. But there are those who will, maybe because it's the first time or because they have gone through multiple losses, then you realize that they are not able to process as well. And those will go for different sessions. Again, it depends on the kind of relationship you had with that person. There are those who are very close, it might take longer. There are those who had issues, like if you lose somebody, you will angry with the feeling that is associated with somebody dying before they have forgiven you or you have forgiven them. Might take longer to process.
So I wanted to ask a question.
Yes.
Does breakup qualify as grief?
Yes.
Like breaking up with your significant other.
Yes.
This is just for
Those are two different things.
Both of them. It can be separation. It can be for someone else.
For us. You're facing breakups nowadays.
Yes.
Does that qualify as grief?
Let me tell you, and I think that's where we all need to know. If you lose something, that qualifies as grief. If you lose a pet that you love, you lose a pet, that is grief. You don't process it, it piles up. You lose a pet that you are given during your birthday, or your anniversary, by the significant other. And you say, this is painful, and you get angry a bit yourself for being careless. The next time your dog dies and it was just a dog, the one of mine, it just died, it's okay. Next time you hear or you see in the newspapers a classmate that you haven't seen for so many years, but who was your best mate has died, and you're like, wow, I used to be very close to this guy. He's dead. Then after that, you lose somebody maybe closer. Then all that. It just piles up. There is a time that will come, and all those emotions will just blow up. So deal with each loss as it comes. You can even lose a sweater.
Deal with it.
Deal with it.
So no grief is important than the other.
No grief is important than the other. It is the attachment to that item, to that person that qualifies. the level of grief. It is not the item you have lost or the person you have lost.
The attachment.
It's the attachment. There are people who are attached to their dogs more than their parents. So you cannot say that it is very abnormal for you to cry because your dog has died. What if it's a person? You cry the same way. Because it's the attachment. And those you know, when you're, you know, it's like when you have something that you have, you know, if I stick these two things with glue, when I separate them, they're not going to be the same. You know, there will be, you know, pieces of one on the other. That is what is causing the thing. So it's the attachment. So relationships can be very painful. Even losing a job, people get into depression because of that. It's because of the attachment that you have. If you don't process that, you lose a job, and you don't process that, you think it is normal. The next time you lose a person, people will think that you're mad. You can even slip into a depression. Because it's called the multiple griefs. And those multiple griefs can only be dealt with separately. Now that comes to the question on how long grief should take. If you have multiple, you know, incidents of grief that you never dealt with, it can take years. Even 3 years. If one grief can take a year, how about multiple? And when you go for therapy, a good psychologist is able to separate them. And look at the different attachments and deal with each one of them one by one. I might be going because, for example, God forbid I lose my mom. But when I go for therapy, the counselor realizes it's not even about my mom. I lost an uncle, I lost a job, I lost work, and I never dealt with that. The most logical thing is to deal with what brought you there. But if, for example, in the process of processing that, I start mentioning other things, a good counselor will leave that and start exploring the others until they identify the one that pains most. Then we resolve that one. By the time I resolve that one, I might be able to have resolved all these others. If I haven't, then we will just go back and deal with it. That can take years. That can take years.
Talking about attachments, there are people who believe that they can control how they get attached to people, things. Because I've heard of people saying, I don't want attachments.
I don't.
Simply because of something they've gone through, now it becomes like a point of reference. They don't want any association, they don't follow. They just keep a distance in anything they do. Maybe it's something they love, and there's that fear.
That's unfortunate, and it happens to very many of us that if something hurts you, we go by, you know, once bitten, twice shy. The only problem with that is that your relationships can never mature, and they can never be authentic, and they can never be satisfying because you're holding back.
There's always a wall you've built.
There is always a wall.
And
then the other person, when they realize that, they might also withdraw. And if it is in the family, you become strangers in the family. If it is in marriage, it's even worse because you become roommates or housemates. You just perceive each other. There are people who actually survive with that. You decide no attachment, no nothing. But human beings are emotional beings and they're social beings. If you want a life that is satisfying socially and emotionally, you have to be ready to do something. Yes, and you have to give yourself. Otherwise, you can maintain a superficial relationship, and it can work, but you'll never be fulfilling. That's the problem.
Okay, speaking about relationships, there was a question on how does one's relationship with their parents affect them as a person, as an adult. How your upbringing, probably whether it was good or bad, ends up creating the picture that you live by now after. Is there
because there's also a story just around someone's son took the car, his dad's car, went and traveled to Naivasha, and then on his way back he had an accident.
A very minor one.
Very minor one. But because he knew the attachment, this car, it was a Mack. The attachment the father had to this car, the sight of that minor accident,
He knew was too much.
to make him lose his life.
Wow.
He just killed himself. He committed. So that's the question I was asking.
Yeah, because that now goes back to the way, like how he knows the
father.
faith.
The attachment he has with his things, with his things, his house.
So how does that affect?
We are a sum total of the families that brings us back. That's very true. And how you relate with the members of your nuclear family prepares you to face the wider society. If, for example, I can talk about something that I'm very passionate about, and that is positive discipline.
Okay.
If you ask most parents why they beat up their children, they'll tell you it's because they were beaten. They have.
So revenge mission.
They've got no clue. It can be that, but if you know something else, what I've discovered in the course of interacting with parents is that they do not know any other way
Of solving their children. To discipline. Okay.
That is what they grew up.
That is what they saw at home, that's what they saw in school, and that's what they are doing. That is how it affects them. I mean, that's how upbringing can affect you. If you grew up in a family where there was so much violence, you can decide, when I get my own family. That is if you decide to get a family. Because there are those who are like, that's what families are all about.
Because I'm
done. I'm okay alone.
There's no value here.
So that is how else the family can affect you. But there are those who venture and they vow
to be better.
I will be totally different. You know, like totally. What my parents were doing, I will never do any of it. So if they were beating you,
they make a decision.
I will never touch
you.
Okay.
If they don't have skills in positive discipline, the kids ends up getting totally spoiled and uncontrollable.
Because ulikuwa unanyimwa pesa, mtoto wako akitaka
everything.
Fine.
There are those others who decide, I was beaten like a donkey.
I will do the same.
And it worked, and that's why I have so much money. I will do exactly that. So that's the thing. So people parent the way they were parented, or the way they were not parented.
I was watching a comedian saying that the reason it's an American comedian was telling the audience, beat your children up because it will make them important, like it will make them grow into mature adults. The reason I can't do some things is because I think of doing it and I imagine if my mom walked in, the kind of beating she would give me as an adult, I can't do it.
Exactly what I'm saying, my mom was saying.
Yes.
To begin a viatu.
Yes.
My mom can even dream thoughts. The thoughts. She can come here.
You see now, that's how parenting affects us. If your parents loved one of your siblings better than you, you grow up with a lot of resentment. And that affects you. And it might even affect the way you treat your children. Like you can say, I am going to try my level best to love them the same way or not to love them the same way, so that you do not draw the boundaries. But that bitterness towards your parents might follow you for very many years, because those are, we call it unfinished business. And especially if you're never able to address it with your parents, like, why was this happening? Is it a perception or was it a reality? Because there are some times when you get a client for therapy, you realize that along the journey you discover you might have misunderstood the situation, but you grew with a lot of bitterness. If you talk to parents who have, if a child goes to therapy and then after that you talk to the parent, you might discover something like what I'm telling you. Most parents beat because they were beaten. You talk to the parent and they're like, what else could I do? maybe like I am a single parent, how was I going to bring up a spoiled child? You know? So you find that the parents have their own fears, and that's the way that's why they are treating you in a certain way. And for you, you think they hate you, but for them, they are protecting you. So most of the things that we see now in our families, is it reality or perception? Either of those can actually take you to therapy. And it is important for you to get to the bottom of it. If it was the reality, then you know, yes, I was actually an unwanted child and I was mistreated, but I can rise above that. Or you just get that aha moment and say, after all, I don't think I was hated. There were other things that were happening, like the relationship between the spouses. It can affect the children and make you. My relationship with, let's say for example, if I had a very bad relationship with let's say my dad, I might have a lot of mistrust for my father-in-law, and that might bring tension between me and my husband. It's not that I hate his father, but I don't trust any father. And that becomes, I can literally take that too. So there's a lot of baggage that we carry from our families of origin to our places of work, to the society, and even to our own families. And that's how sometimes therapy becomes very important. If you realize that there's some threads in the family that you're dealing with and you're not very sure even why it's happening, you might want just to go sit down with somebody who's professional and it's like, why am I reacting like that? Why am I always quarreling with my children? Why can't I be patient enough not to beat up my children? And then you walk that journey of how you are disciplined, what you believe, what are your fears? I mean, why do you have to be so obsessed about that dishes have to be done by 7 o'clock in the morning? Or that there are no dirty dishes that should be left when you're going to sleep? Where did you learn that? If your children like washing the dishes in the morning like mine, and for me, my mother, you could never go to sleep when there was a glass that is dirty on the sink. And I had to find that balance. So what if I was always making noise and getting angry and getting depressed because the boys want to wash the dishes in the morning? I need to go for therapy. It's not about therapy. It's about me. And what I got from my home. And I would be beaten if my mom woke up in the morning and she was always the first one to wake up and find dirty dishes.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. So we carry a lot of baggage from our past into our current families, and it ruins our relationships. If you could not trust your members of the nuclear families, like totally there was no trust because of the things that were happening, and mostly those things have to do with violence in the family. You are very likely to go about life not knowing how to trust
anyone.
At all. You go to work, you cannot trust your colleagues, you cannot trust your boss, and anything that happens, you're suspicious. They're asking me that because they want me to lose my job. My colleague is doing this because they want to incite my boss against me. And it just becomes a cycle of it just becomes a cycle of mistrust. If you go right down your history, you'll find that at the point at which in your developmental stage you are supposed to learn to trust, and that happens below the age of 3. You didn't because of the situation in the family, or something that happened somewhere along the way in your upbringing, and you lost the trust that you had, or you are betrayed and you're so afraid to trust. You carry that, and even if somebody tries their best to be honest with you, you are always questioning. That ruins relationships.
The motive,
completely, because people are like, why are you always suspecting that I have any other ulterior motive? And people will get tired of you if you can't trust. Because you don't. I don't want to be your friend if every time you're suspecting that
there's something.
I have a card at the table.
Okay, so talking now I have even another question. When kids are growing up, boys tend to be more familiar with their mothers than their fathers, and the ladies tend to be more familiar with their dads. So you end up now in the level of relationships, you find name tags that huyu ni mama's boy. Babake anampikianga kila wakati. So is it a reality, a perception?
It is a reality that in a normal family, you find girls being more close to their fathers at a certain point. And the boys will be so closer to their mothers at a certain point. Where now parenting skills come in is where both parents realize that this is part of growing up and they balance. But it's natural. It is called the in-pass conflict, where girls really get close to their fathers, but only at a certain age. Between the age of 5 and the age of 9, you find that closeness. When girls are past adolescence, you see that coming back. And maybe the first person to even meet their boyfriend is the dad, not even the mom. That happens also for the boys. You see, the first person to see your girlfriend is your mom and not your dad.
Even to know.
That's it, even to know.
That is very true.
So that is a reality. In a good family, they need to balance such that you know the other parent tries to draw you closer to the parents that you're not so close to, so that the balance can be there. Sometimes it can be so much, and sometimes it is actually exaggerated by insecurity in the family, where if, for example, an absent dad is very close to the daughter, then you realize that they always want to make up for their absence. Or if that person has a bad relationship with the wife, then it's like hitting back by having a close relationship with the daughter. So now that is when it becomes dysfunctional. Otherwise, it's a normal developmental process when children are growing up.
And so issues like, as you said, when that problem with your parents now comes and affects you, there are those cases where the parent, like you as the child, you know that your parent, there's no way they're going to agree to sit with you in therapy. Is there some way that going to therapy as yourself, you will be able to deal and move past that, even if you've not been able to deal with the issue
The other person not present.
And also just to kind of approach the end of the discussion, is there's a lot of stigma surrounding therapy in today's society. So like what can you tell us regarding how to deal with the stigma? Because I'll probably feel weird telling them, oh, by the way, I'm seeing a therapist, but I didn't get the going to chapa. So the issue of is it possible for you to have therapy without the party you are agreed with and be able to move past things? And is it like what about stigma?
You can actually be able to deal with an issue on your own without involving other people if it is completely unavoidable. You can do that. Because we say therapy is about drawing the strengths in you to be able to cope with the situation. So there are times when therapy helps you to cope and live with the problem because it's not going away. Talk about a father who is a drunkard and always speaking fights at home, and he will not agree to go for therapy, and that is affecting you. No one is going to tell you leave the family. But how do you cope? What are the coping skills that you need so that you can be able to live in that situation? Yes. So you can actually, therapy is not about resolving the problem. If it cannot be resolved, it's about getting strong enough to cope with it without it, getting you down. So that is possible. It is important to know that people who go for counseling are actually very healthy people. Healthy because they have realized they have a problem and they are crying out for help. The most unhealthy person is the one who has a problem and does not want to resolve it. Because then it means they live with it forever. And when it is too heavy for them to bear, they will either become sick and therefore they end up with a psychiatrist, or they end up in a mental hospital, or like that is what now causes the mental distress, and you see there's so many cases of suicide and even homicide. So that is what triggers a lot of pent-up emotions that somebody is not dealing with. So before we get there, I think it is important for us to learn that there is help. And sometimes that help does not have to be so expensive. Therapy is actually very expensive. You reach somewhere between 1,000 for those who are doing it almost pro bono to almost 10,000 for those who are in big hospitals.
Per session?
Yes, per session. A session that goes for an hour.
Okay.
It can be very expensive. You know, yes, it can be very expensive.
Maybe so money.
So, that's the thing. Maybe you did the wrong course. Yes, but it doesn't have to be that expensive, because right now there are very many organizations that have realized how expensive therapy is, and they are offering free therapy sessions or totally subsidized. Even some of the government hospitals, they have come to appreciate the importance of mental health, and you will go and find a therapist there. On a good day, get a referral from somebody you know in counseling, because anybody who has been trained for less than a diploma is likely to just be going to give you advice. There are those people, like I did a 1-month course in guidance and counseling when I was teaching, just to help me understand my students and understand myself in relationship to my students. I could use counseling skills, but I couldn't counsel. But you can get some skills that can help you do emotional first aid, psychological first aid. With less than a diploma, you're likely to do some very unethical things, because you have not gone through the whole process yourself. So the least qualification for a professional counselor, psychologist, has to be a diploma. And then after that they have the experience. By the time you finish your diploma, you've done like 250 hours of therapy as part of your qualification. So then under supervision. So I think that is important. It doesn't do any harm for you to ask your therapist when you go whether they are a member of a counseling association. Because they are there. Then you would know that in case you feel uncomfortable with the services, you can actually be able to inquire. It doesn't do any harm.
So that
it empowers you as a person, that this person is professional. And if that person is a professional, they would not have any problem telling you, I'm a member of KCA, I'm a member of KPCA. I mean, why would I want to hide if I'm a professional? You go to the doctor's office and you find their registration of service there. I think that should apply to everyone, and that's how you know whether it's a quack or a qualified person. The other thing is that really counseling is not for sick people. I really want to emphasize that counseling is not for sick people. By the time you get sick, we should be taking you to hospital. Counseling is somebody who is totally aware that they have an emotional burden and they can get better by talking to somebody else. Yes.
I have another question.
Sure.
Well, before we wind up, like for example, I am close to you, and I feel like I really need therapy. Now, me being close to you, does me coming to you, do I have an advantage? Because there are people who wonder, the people who ask, I know this person, and I don't want them to know my business because we are close.
That's true.
So I'd rather go to Kevin, a stranger. My business will just be in those 4 walls.
And is there a conflict of interest in the case of, like, you're a psychologist? Will there be a conflict of interest if I come to you as a psychologist and not as mom who knows me? Or you get? Is there
as a patient?
As a patient, should I see that as a conflict of interest, or what is the situation?
It's actually called dual relationship, and it is unethical. I wouldn't take you as a client, but I can use my counseling skills. When it reaches a point where I think you just need to sit down with somebody in a professional setting, I'll refer you and I'll refer you to somebody. But I can use my counseling skills. I can be able to work a lot of things, and you probably don't even need to go for counseling. But I cannot contract you and say now we are in a formal counseling setting because I have a dual relationship.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there was a case, I had a friend who was seeing a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is an uncle. Now, alikuwa anajua whatever he needs, whether it is medication, he will prescribe.
That's why people
or inclined to go to people they know because they know. The time frame that she's talking about, maybe you need a particular, maybe it's a year, maybe 2 sessions. You're done.
And that becomes a problem because it really doesn't get you to the level where you want to go in your healing process. You're like treating yourself. And you're taking the quickest medicine to get yourself better. It doesn't work that way.
So me, mom, I'm still stuck. You actually went for a lesson to understand your students.
Yes, I did.
Should it be a compulsory qualification before a teacher?
Before I go to teach, you be taught how to relate with students.
Actually, become a rat.
Me, I think there is a lecturer who taught me when I was in first year that needs therapy. Because honestly, that person it's like they were very angry and they didn't know how to deal with their anger, and so walikuwa wanatutolea hiyo uchungu.
Kama mtu akuwa na movie ya Bruce Lee.
Amekuja
Actually, you know you're so right. Most of us would go to class, into a psychology class, because you want to understand other people. But once you get there, if you go to a good institution, and I'm not talking about a university, the universities, they'll teach you the theories. I went first of all for 3 days, and it's one of my colleagues in the staff room who told me, I was getting angry with students, and she said, when she was trained herself, and one day she told me, that is something very small. You shouldn't be getting angry about that. And I tried to explain. And she told me, let me tell you something. I may not be able to explain to you, but next weekend I am having a counseling class for beginners. It's only 3 days. So you take off on Saturday, you do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I did that, and I realized I'm actually the problem. It's not even my students. I'm actually the problem. So I went for a 3 months course, a certificate, and I realized I think this is getting better. I did my diploma, and from there I did my masters, and I left class, and that was for good.
Oh, so you started as a teacher?
I was a teacher.
And then in the process of trying to understand yourself better and how to relate with your children, you went into psychology.
Exactly. I was teaching in Kilimambogo Teachers College, and I used to get so angry when I go for teaching practice that a student cannot control a class, and I would fail them, and I'm like, you know what? There must be something off here. Why can't I help them? That's how I landed in counseling. Yes.
So
police force and teachers should all.
You're very right about that.
So I think this topic will go on because I know the questions that the audience guys are going to have. I know we know you're going to have so many more questions. The committee members, we know you're going to have so many more questions. And what we're going to do is, as you ask us questions, we'll plan to have another session. The other thing we'll do is, because you're in the practice, you can give us some of those contacts for the institutions you are saying that offer, and then we'll put them in the description, so that if you have any need for counseling, you can definitely find all that information in the description box below. So thank you so much. I think we are going to close. We cannot begin to even thank you for all this information that you've given us. We hope that it's going to help 1 or 2 people out there. Even if 100 people see this, or 200 or 1,000, and just one person gets the help that they need, me I'm comfortable. So thank you so much. Asante sana.
And the beauty of it is, you guys asked for it.
So if you have any more questions, just continue asking and compile them, and we'll definitely have another session.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.